Today's video, I've called it Ascension Mechanics, but what we're going to talk about is embodiment, who is animating the human vessel, as it relates to the mechanics of ascension. I've already done multiple mental gymnastics around what to call this video. So what I wanted to talk about today is just that. Who's animating the body? What does embodiment mean? And what is actually happening with the embodiment process? And how all of this relates to ascension. So let's start where we started. When we were in the third dimensional matrix, asleep, unconscious, we dove right in, had the experiences that we were having. The amount of connectivity or interface that the higher self and then the soul self had for the human was very small. What was animating the human in our 3D unconscious experience, which there was nothing wrong with, was our genetic DNA, but all the other DNA was turned off, our multidimensionality, that was deactivated. So it was our human DNA genetics. It was our wounds and traumas and programming. It was the programming for the matrix experience as an interface back and forth, that we would have the experiences and keep the holographic matrix experience running, and our unconscious programming, thoughts and beliefs. So to say that when we were an unconscious human, we were an avatar in the game is true, because what was running the avatar was a lot of programs. That's all that it was. People, humans, you and I, when we were in that unconscious state, being run predominantly by programming, only held like 1 to 3% of our light. And that 1 to 3% was all the access that our higher self had to interface with us, to help direct us, to help mold our experience. So that was how that worked when we were in the 3D. The interface, the connectivity that we had to our higher self and then ultimately to our soul's divine blueprint was very, very small. Now that we are going through the ascension process, what we are doing is dissolving ourselves of all of our wounds, traumas, and programming. In doing so, along with the ascension light and codes that are being received by the body, we are converting our 666 6 carbons, 6 electrons, 6 protons, and 6 neutrons, carbon-based DNA into a 616 crystalline DNA. That's happening within us. That is what's happening at a cellular level with all of the ascension energies and ascension symptoms and the inner healing and the inner vibratory shifts that we are making, is that we are converting ourselves from carbon to crystalline. Once we hold a certain level, and I don't know what the number is, a certain level of crystalline DNA, that crystalline is our embodiment. That's what we are embodying. We are not actually embodying the wholeness of our soul so that the soul can live inside the body. That can't happen, and I'm going to explain that in a minute. Our embodiment process is this conversion from carbon to crystalline structure within the DNA at a cellular level that allows for the higher versions of ourselves, the higher self and the soul aspect, to interface and express itself through the human body. As we ascend, we are going to ascend past the 5th dimensional higher self aspect. This is what makes it all very crunchy, is that we're doing the hard part right now. Getting rid of all of our wounds and traumas and our beliefs and deprogramming our body from a 3rd dimensional reality. And while living in a 3rd dimensional reality, we're doing it all now and dissolving the ego and bringing the ego back into alignment and purifying it so that it can take its rightful place. That is what's making ascension difficult, but ascension doesn't stop at the higher self or the 5D level. We continue to ascend past that. It just won't be as difficult because we'll have done all of the cleaning and purification work. As we continue, we will then become an avatar or an avatar-like being in the human form with a refined ego that still allows you to have a sense of humor and a personality and things like that. But we will also be an avatar that is interfacing with our soul self. So your soul could very well be a 15th dimensional or a 12th dimensional light being. And the frequency and expansiveness of that soul is being projected down into the human body to the capacity that the body can handle. But the soul itself is not ever going to leave the dimension that it is held in and come into the body because it would burn the body out. The human body has certain limitations in order to remain in physicality, and this is the goal. The goal is for the soul to have the experience of physicality without having to drop down into physicality to have that experience. So where we left was we were an avatar in a game that was run predominantly by programming with very little light turned on to be interfaced with our soul. Now we are in embodiment, which doesn't mean that the soul is coming into the body. It means that the soul is gaining access to the body so that it can express itself through you and understand itself in a more physicalized nature without having to be in the physical. The embodiment is the carbon crystalline structure change. So once we reach the 5th dimensional higher self aspect, then we continue on to reconnect with our soul family, which is what some people call the monad group, which is still a projection of the divine soul blueprint, which is probably a 12th or 5th dimensional being. That level, the soul's most purest, unsort of fractalized expression in that 12th or 15th dimensional space is projecting itself down through the levels of harmonics. So that version of you, which is your soul in wholeness, is projecting itself down into the monad group. The monad group is projecting itself into the higher self. The higher self is dreaming all of your dimensional selves that you call your past lives, your parallel lives, and your egoic structure that's watching this video. So this is where it comes from, where they say that you are dreaming this. That's coming from the perspective of the higher self. The higher self is dreaming you because you are an avatar in a game, while at the same time, your body and its ability to convert and to restructure itself from carbon to crystalline, to turn on dormant DNA that allows you to interface with your galactic nature, your memories of other lifetimes, to interface with your higher self and then your soul. Your body is a divine, incredibly magical piece of quantum technology. So we use the word avatar, and that can be just a little dishonoring, but it's also a good word when you begin to understand that you truly are an avatar of programming in one reality, and then you become an avatar of interfacing with your higher self, and then beyond your higher self with your divine soul in its wholest expression. You will become the avatar of your divine consciousness. Both are sort of the same thing, and yet totally, completely different. I will meet you in the comments, as I'm sure I will. Bye for now.